I was in Hamburg, Iowa, and saw the floods, a town that was founded in 1858, had never been flooded before, and saw the heartache of a town that was really ruined by the flooding of that river system. Then I come to the other side of the state, to Davenport, and now see these businesses that dress for success, this nonprofit that help women get back on their feet. These entrepreneurs, one of whom in the Half Nelson restaurant, the day he was going to open his business, got flooded out. And this is just maddening to me, to think that these hardworking people who are building a new communities in Iowa, who are helping out women succeed, get flooded out and not have any protection of its federal government. We ought to have a government that's protecting these people from these floods. We ought to have a government that is smart enough to realize that if we don't fight the climate crisis, these floods are just going to keep coming over the tops of these barriers, and they're just going to keep flooding out our businesses, and they're just going to keep taking people's lives. And that's maddening to me. When we talked to Jerry Schloer here today, we know that these floods have increased 37% in the last 30 years, and they're going to get much worse in the decades to come. And with all that scientific reality that is threatening these people, we got a guy in the White House who are telling us that the climate crisis is a Chinese hoax. What a bunch of baloney. A guy who's saying that wind turbines cause cancer when we know they cause jobs. A guy who won't stand here and look at people in the eye and telling them, you people in Davenport can just go fish, because I'm not going to help you. This is a president who's not helping these people one iota. He hasn't helped them on the disaster, and he hasn't helped them before the disaster to end the climate crisis. And it makes me hopping mad, as you can tell, because I've met these people now in Hamburg. I've met these people in Davenport. These are people who are building this community up. They're building new businesses. They're having a resurgence of these riverfront communities. And now we're going to have to try to wall themselves off from these beautiful riverfronts. This just won't do. So I just believe that while we have people in Davenport seeking the high ground, you can't have people who are in leadership positions just talking about the middle ground. We need a full-throated mobilization of the United States government to protect these people in Iowa and across this country from the ravages of the climate crisis. And I've looked them in the eye. From Marcia Moss in Seminole Springs, whose home, with mobile home, a town of mobile home community of over 100 mobile homes destroyed. She took me up to her home and she says, I want to show you what I got left in my life. And all she had left was her driveway, because everything else was destroyed. And now you see these business owners in the same shop, the same situation. You got people who are trying to get women get back on their feet, and the floods are drowning them out. And yet we don't have a federal government lifting a finger to prevent this crisis. So I have proposed measures that are bold, that are ambitious, and they're based on science. And these people deserve science. Look, Iowa is the place that gave us the green revolution. It gave us the green science that have fed literally billions of people. They're owed a president who understands science of the climate crisis. And the science is these rivers are going to get higher more frequently in the decades to come if we don't stop carbon pollution. So I'm here to say we ought to be protecting these people rather than hiding from fictions. And I've got a plan to make sure to do that. Tomorrow I will announce my jobs plan in Washington, D.C. It will be at a water plant in Washington, D.C. with some very high-tech measures run by good union members to talk about how we can grow jobs across the United States. As part of that, I will announce a commitment to the $7 billion that have been proposed by local communities up and down this corridor to try to protect and ameliorate some of these floods. And that's a good investment. But we got to understand, you can't build walls at infinite height if the water just keeps rising. And Rob, who I was just talking to, said something very eloquent, I thought. He said that we need the spirit of the sandbag before the floods, not just after the floods. And I think he's right. We need people who will prevent the floods rather than just respond to them. When your house just keeps burning down every season and it gets worse by the decades, you don't just get buckets, You get something to prevent the fires in the first place. And our house is on fire. And I kind of like what my friend Bill Nye said the other day, you know, what is it that you idiots don't get? Just grow up. And we need some adult supervision in the White House so we can protect these people in Iowa and across the nation. I intend to do that if I'm given this high honor.